You are listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon on YouTube so you can get notified every Tuesday when we upload a new episode.
You can also add us on Facebook and Instagram at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
Let's get going then. All right, are you ready?
Episode 26, yes.
I cannot believe it that we are on episode 26. So, quick update. I'm still vegan.
I am not.
You weren't vegan when we uploaded our vegan experience. You ate eggs before we recorded.
I was vegan for, I want to say, a solid 5 days, aside from the fact that I forgot gelatin had whatever. Anyways,
moving on. I'm definitely still giving the vegan experiment a go, and I told the RD a second ago, I'm going to keep trying to do it until it interferes with my lifestyle, and I haven't felt that it's gotten in the way, but we'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. But let's get into this week's new nutrition in the news. So this new nutrition in the news goes hand in hand with this episode, and it kind of inspired me to want to talk about it a little bit more. So there was a new study that was released on June 3rd, so only a couple days ago, and it's basically a heart health study that looked at caffeine and basically said that coffee lovers who drink up to 25 cups a day can rest assured that the beverage is not bad for their heart. This study was from the Queen Mary University of London, and it divided 8,412 people into 3 different groups for the study. The groups ranged from like no cups of coffee, 1 to 3, then 5, and then over 5, which the most was 25. I don't know who drinks 25 cups of coffee a day.
I know.
Whatever. So apparently some previous studies actually suggested that caffeine will stiffen your arteries, and previous studies warn people to kind of back off on the caffeinated drinks and whatnot. But going back to the study, more than 8,000 people found that 5 cups a day, even up to 25 cups a day, was no worse for your arteries than drinking less than a cup per day. So this article, we'll definitely link it in the show notes. The initial article was from Independent UK News, and it's basically like a blog post, and I'm just like, they didn't link the actual study, so I dug a little bit deeper, and then I found a more inclusive review of the study on Science Daily, which is a little bit of a better source, but they still didn't link the full study, so I could not find the methods, research design, discussion, none of that stuff. So we're just
no bueno.
I don't know if it's because maybe it got released only a couple of days ago that it hasn't been published, and I don't know. But if people are writing reviews about it, it should be I don't know.
They should present a full front rather than just partial.
Yeah, I mean, I read on the articles that the university is going to present it at the next UK Heart Health, I don't know, meeting or whatever. I don't know when that is, but there will probably be more to come on this. And it's just interesting. And to be completely honest, I don't know if I just hadn't heard of it or whatever, but I didn't even know that caffeine could stiffen your arteries. I didn't know that research even existed. Did you?
No, this is the first time I've heard about stiffening of arteries.
Right.
Like, I've only heard about like heart rate and blood pressure.
Of course, and that's because, caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant. We know that it increases your heart rate. I don't believe it does quite as much to your blood pressure unless you're unhealthy to begin with. But I think if you have healthy blood pressure, caffeine is not really going to affect your blood pressure too much, but it 100% affects your heart rate. It's a central nervous system stimulant. So I don't know where this whole stiffening arteries thing
I don't know if they got that just because more blood is pumping, so maybe that made the arteries hurt. I don't know.
Well, that doesn't make sense because if your heart rate is
I was just taking a gander. It probably it probably doesn't even exist. I don't
I
know.
don't know. Apparently, there is a lot of research that says caffeine stiffens your arteries, but I've just never heard of it. Of course, that doesn't
Please, yeah, guys,
much.
please just comment underneath the video to let us know your thoughts on stiffening of the arteries and what that means, and like if there's any studies that actually link to that, please let us know.
And what really bothered me about this study that just came out is they only really looked at the stiffening of arteries and translated that to a health status. But what else did caffeine do? How did it affect their sleep? How did it
Hmm.
affect their anxiety? How did it affect their nutrient intake? We know that caffeine is also an
Hmm.
appetite suppressant. You're probably not eating very much if you're drinking 25 cups of coffee a day. So
Right.
just some thoughts.
I
Thought
don't
it was
know.
interesting that this study just came out. So we're gonna dive into more of the stuff about caffeine.
Yeah. So, episode 26, caffeine. So, what is caffeine? Caffeine is found in so many different things, from chocolates to sodas to supplements, and obviously coffee and tea. So, for the most part, we're going to be focusing on the actual coffee portion and mostly gym supplements that we can find.
hmm So first, we just want to talk a few fun facts about caffeine. So caffeine is the most consumed drug in the world. This should not come as a surprise. Uh, as we talked about, caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant and it does have addictive properties. This one caught my attention. So, according to the DSM 5, caffeine withdrawal is a diagnosable mental health condition. Yeah, that caught my attention. So, the FDA does consider 400 milligrams of caffeine safe for most people, but of course, this will vary, and we'll get into more of that later. And caffeine does take about 45 minutes to take effect, but I'll argue that after the first sip, I feel like a new woman. It doesn't take 45 minutes.
Oh.
Just kind of gets you going. But
Hmm.
caffeine will stay in your system for a very long time. The half life of caffeine is about 4 hours, so that means half of it will be gone from your system within 4 hours, so on and so forth. But you will feel the effects for up to 8 to 12 hours, give or take. And actually, in smokers, the half life is shortened from 4 hours down to 3 hours. And actually, women who are on birth control, it might take them longer to clear caffeine from their system. So I thought that was super interesting.
Interesting.
hmm
So another thing is you can overdose on caffeine. The FDA actually suggests that caffeine overdose will occur with 5 grams in adults, which
So
also
much.
means 30 to 35 cups of coffee, which I don't know why you would taking that in the first place. So I
Apparently,
don't what?
I said apparently the people in the study above did, but
Oh God. So I don't know why these people are drinking that much. So maybe coffee is different in the United Kingdom. I don't know. Highly doubt it. But caffeine is also found in a whole bunch of products, even shampoo and body scrub. There are even home do-it-yourself coffee scrubs that are thought to decrease your cellulite, but there's actually really no research to support this. Caffeine in shampoo is also thought to thicken hair due to stimulant properties. And lastly, according to the National Coffee Association, coffee was discovered by an Ethiopian goat herder in 800 AD. Apparently, he found his goats dancing and frolicking in the fields after after grazing on red berries.
finish the story.
After grazing on red berries from a coffee shrub. After seeing its effect on these goats, these frolicking goats, he also tried the coffee cherries himself. He had a similar reaction to them. Then a monk who supposedly observed the goat herder and the goat's odd behavior plucked some berries and took some back to his monastery for his brothers to try that night. After consuming the food, they became more alert and more attentive during long hours of evening prayer. So, according to legend, the monks came up with the idea of drying the foods and boiling them into a beverage. That's such a that's such a funny story. I can't.
So, if you saw goats frolicking and dancing in the woods, would you eat what they ate?
I want to frolic too, man.
I I found that story and I'm just like, no way. Again, no research to support that, but definitely funny.
A fun little legend.
Yeah, exactly. So, what actually is caffeine and how does it do all of the magical things? So, caffeine is known as an adenosine antagonist. So, first, adenosine is a neurotransmitter. So, neurotransmitters send signals to our brain, and adenosine uses adenosine receptors in our brains. And when the adenosine binds to the receptors in our brain, we'll feel more drowsy and relaxed.
So caffeine's chemical structure actually looks and very much looks like adenosine, meaning that it also binds to the adenosine receptors in the brain. That's why it's called an antagonist, because caffeine and adenosine basically fight for these receptors. So when caffeine blocks adenosine from getting to those receptors, well, that's when the magic happens. So now that we know how caffeine does the work, let's talk about some of the most common types.
So, going back to our fun fact number one, coffee is the most consumed drug in the world. And all of these facts were taken from most of them have been taken from a literature review that was published in the Journal of Critical Reviews in Food Science and Nutrition. So please check the show notes for that full review. We only took like snippets out, but it's
Mhm.
a very good in-depth article. Like it's super long, talks about pretty much everything you'd want to know about coffee specifically and how caffeine works within the body. So again, coffee is by far the most common source of caffeine, but we did say earlier, caffeine can be found in different things like teas, dark chocolate, and coffee and tea obviously have more bioactive compounds in them versus just caffeine. So some of those other compounds can be carbohydrates and lipids depending on what you add in your coffee, but nitrogenous compounds, vitamins, minerals, alkaloids, and phenolic compounds can also be found in coffee. And those are part of what gives coffee like some of its additional benefits and whatnot. We're
Mhm.
going to talk a little bit more about those benefits.
Right. And then there's some prospective cohort studies that actually suggest an inverse relationship between caffeine and type 2 diabetes, but the research is a little bit mixed. But I also don't think that people should consume coffee just to decrease their risk for diabetes. That's not going to be a front line.
Yeah,
It would just be more of a happy accident, and if caffeine actually did so.
right.
But to further decrease the risk for diabetes, you shouldn't actually load your coffee with sugar and cream either. So,
Yeah.
overall, the results of case control studies do suggest that caffeine and coffee intake are inversely associated with also the risk of Parkinson's disease, funny enough. So there are several large prospective cohort studies that have actually found inverse associations between coffee and caffeine intakes in Parkinson's disease risk in men. A study of more than 8,000 Japanese American men found that those who did not drink coffee were 3 to 5 times more likely to develop Parkinson's disease over the next 24 to 30 years than those who drank at least 28 ounces daily, which I still find it funny that they chose Japanese American men. But that's just me.
Yeah, yeah. Additionally, coffee consumption has been inversely associated with the risk of colon cancer in case control studies, which is just one individual but not prospective cohort studies. And several epidemiological studies have examined the relationship between coffee consumptions and coronary heart disease risk. So we know caffeine has that heart rate increase effect. And in general, case control studies have found that high coffee intakes tend to be associated with significantly increased risk of coronary heart disease or myocardial infarction. So, not surprising, really. So some studies found that it increases risk, but then some didn't find it. So again, research is a little bit mixed.
as per usual.
Yeah.
So, so a large prospective study in the United States that followed more than 128,000 members of a health plan for 7 years found no actual association between coffee consumption and sudden cardiac death. So another thing is the results of controlled calcium balance studies in humans indicate that caffeine consumption leads to a small negative calcium balance in individuals with inadequate calcium intakes. Again, this is not the first time I've heard this. I think I learned this in some of my nutrition classes. So the negative shift in calcium balance has been estimated to be about 4 to 6 milligrams of calcium per cup of coffee and is due to the slight decrease in the efficiency of the actual calcium absorption. So, loss of calcium can come from the caffeine's diuretic effect. A blood calcium level do need to stay between 8.5 and 10.2. So, when you pee a lot, this will change and your body will pull calcium from its bones to compensate for the actual loss. This used to be the fact, but new research suggests that caffeine is not necessarily a diuretic and may not actually dehydrate you.
That still confuses me.
I know, and I mean, I still consider it a fluid. Um, like in dialysis, I don't really change anything in regards to that. But the fact that I don't know that was research, anyways.
I mean, it's a stimulant. It makes you have to.
Right. I, anyways, so
We might do more research on that, but I heard that new research said that caffeine is not a diuretic, and I was like, "What? What?"
I don't know. Any of you guys watching, please leave us a comment below to let us know more of what your thoughts are too. But there is another 2002 study that suggests that 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk can actually offset the possible excretion of calcium. The study also mentions that most people who have decreased calcium from caffeine were not even consuming adequate amounts to begin with.
Mhm. Yeah, so 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk is not very much, so just
Hmm.
keep in mind until research is more solid that just make sure your calcium intake is, where it's supposed to be if you drink a lot of coffee. It's not gonna really do any damage, so to say. Um,
Unless you drink 30 to 35 cups of coffee a day.
I know. This is general. So now we're going to talk about some of the other minerals that coffee can kind of screw with. So
Mhm.
drinking 150 to 250 milliliters of coffee with a test meal has been found to inhibit the absorption of iron by 24 to 73%. That's a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
and also zinc chelating compounds have been identified in coffee, and coffee has been found to inhibit the bioavailability of zinc in vitro by 21 to 32%. So, long story short, caffeine could kind of mess with your calcium, zinc, and iron. So, you definitely want to make sure that you are consuming appropriate intakes of those if you're a heavy coffee drinker, because there is research to support that it will inhibit those nutrients.
Right. And then the next section we're going to try to go into a little bit is away from coffee, but more into actual supplements that we find. And this can include weight loss supplement, which is a big deal, fat burners, pre-workouts, energy drinks, energy supplements, and so much, much more. And this can be a very dangerous arena. So most of the reports of caffeine being dangerous are from weight loss supplements and people over consuming them. So again, not new. The, these supplements are usually not just caffeine, but they're usually a combination of many other ingredients. So I'm just going to go through just a couple of them, and forgive me if I butcher these names. So one of the ingredients that it can be combined with is benzoamphetamine or Didrex. It's an anorectic closely related to amphetamines. Benzo Benzyphenamine is most commonly sold under the prescription name Digex, and its main function is to reduce appetite in obese individuals. So the next one is diethylpropion, and it's prescribed on a short-term basis to actually suppress appetite as well. And then caffeine can also be mixed with mazandol. So that's actually currently approved in the United States for use in the treatment of muscular dystrophy. Mazandol prescriptions may be abused for their appetite suppressive properties as well. So another ingredient is phentermine, and this actually also reduces appetite, and it's also used short term to reduce weight in overweight individuals. So the last ingredient is also known as DMP, also known as 2,4-dinitrophenol. So a woman actually died from this one. Granted, she did overdose and take about eight times more than she should have. So
Right.
again, be careful with appetite stimulants. So DMP itself actually rapidly accelerates one's basal metabolic rate, which may sound appealing, but yes, it can lead to quick weight loss. But because of this whole ordeal with the woman actually dying from this supplement, the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938 actually ruled DMP as extremely dangerous and not fit for human consumption. So, if you want a full episode on the dangers of diet pills and the ingredients, please let us know because that's just the start.
What is very interesting is I believe she died in 2015, but back
Okay.
in 1938, they knew that this wasn't safe. So if they knew back then, why?
I don't know. I
Uh,
just people will do anything to lose weight sometimes.
yeah,
Okay.
DNP is very common in like the bodybuilding world too.
Hmm.
The other ones you mentioned are more for like general weight loss, but DNP is for whatever reason more common in the bodybuilding world.
I'm
So
surprised we don't have more strict regulations, especially in regards to stuff like that. But this is America, and people want their stuff.
people want their stuff. So another category aside from diet supplements are pre-workouts. So pre-workouts and energy supplements are a huge category of supplements right now, and we can thank Instagram and Instagram influencers for that because all of these brands of supplements just keep popping up and none of it's regulated, absolutely none of it. But we can talk about that later. Uh, so the thing with like caffeine in pre-workouts and energy supplements is we know that caffeine is generally safe. And as we also learned, like 400 milligrams is considered safe by the FDA. 400 is a lot though. That's like
Mhm.
5 cups of coffee. That's a
I mean,
pretty good amount of caffeine.
it can be easily reached. It sneaks up on you.
Oh, it can, but to do that on a daily basis, that's I don't wanna say excessive, but you can build a tolerance to caffeine, obviously, but for the average person, I think 400 milligrams is okay. Like, why I can't imagine going over more, and obviously it depends on, like, body size and whatnot, like, you
Right.
know, big guys can probably handle 700 without a problem, but pure caffeine by itself is pretty safe and pretty cheap. So all
Mhm.
of these like energy supplements and pre-workouts, they'll tend to create a proprietary blend of things and
Oh.
but you don't know what's in it. Like you don't know what is this proprietary blend because they probably have like a patent on it or something, which makes
Mhm.
it seem unique to that company. But honestly, all they're really doing is loading it up with caffeine and putting a few other like exotic type ingredients in it to make it sound more appealing. This could be like ashwagandha is a common one, and then like root and seed extracts of who God knows what, and they'll put that on the label and claim that it's like the loophole to getting more energy or muscle gains or increased whatever. But all it really is just caffeine, but it's masked by the proprietary blend label. It's It's
But
horrible.
honestly, they're giving the public what they think they want, and they know how to market that shit.
Oh, it's complete marketing. Like,
Mhm.
granted, there are a lot of companies who do not put proprietary blends, or they'll list out exactly what is in their proprietary blend. But the whole point of it being proprietary is people not knowing. But
Mhm.
they'll say on the website, like, it's our secret proprietary blend because we're such good scientists in the lab. We know, like, we know the secret, but they want to make it seem proprietary so other brands don't steal it, but they're really just lying to you because they loaded it up with caffeine. And of course you're going to get amped up. So
Mhm.
you're going to think it's the, you know, seed extract from the ancient grain of, I don't know, whatever.
No one has ever found it until we did.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, stay away from proprietary blends unless it says exactly like what, it'll usually say like the heading, proprietary blend, and then boom, 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 your different line items, and hopefully the corresponding like milligrams or whatever. But
Mhm.
not all companies do that. And, spend a little time on these Instagram companies and you'll see what I'm talking about.
If
Uh,
you have an Instagram.
I know, right? Uh, but yeah, moral of the story, stay away from those. So moral of the story, stick with stay away from those proprietary blends. And if you want just like the simplest and purest caffeine as like a pre-workout or whatever, caffeine anhydrous is again the most purest form of it, and it you can buy it as a supplement just on its own. It's very affordable. I've been taking it for a very long time. Um, so just caffeine pills, 200 milligrams. You can buy like 100 of them off Amazon for like $7 or $8. So definitely cheaper than coffee, and it's just like pure caffeine. Good brands will have a couple milligrams of calcium in it as well because of the reason we talked about before. So yeah,
Mhm.
if that's something you're interested in, check it out.
Give it a whirl.
You've taken
So
my caffeine pills.
I have. I felt pretty good. Pretty confident. So the next thing we're going to go into is, does caffeine actually have some side effects? So we did go over a little bit of it, but we're just going to go over like a little bit more into the extremes. So the first one Christine already touched upon is caffeine withdrawal is a real condition. So in the latest version of the Psychology Handbook, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, also known as DSM-5, caffeine withdrawal is listed as a mental health condition. So, for example, withdrawal side effects, which may start 12 to 24 hours after stopping or drastically curbing caffeine, include a throbbing headache, fatigue, irritability, depressed mood, and difficulty concentrating. Does that sound familiar?
Oh
So,
man.
so people who regularly consume caffeine wake up every morning in caffeine withdrawal. Yikes. But they may not think of it as that way. Instead, people typically consider morning grumpiness, fuzzy thinking, and sleepiness as signs of not yet having their coffee. So, cutting back on caffeine over the course of a week or a lot longer for some of us may actually help to avoid an actual withdrawal headache.
I feel like we're in intervention or something right now.
It's just us right now. We need some people to support us and
And
let
just
us know
tell us
what's
it's
going on.
okay. It's not a problem. Everything's good.
Every,
We don't have an issue.
everything's fine.
Yeah. So, caffeine, moving on to the next side effect, caffeine can exaggerate the side effects of stress. So, caffeine can amplify stress in people who consume it every day. So, in a small study that looked at habitual coffee drinkers, it was found that caffeine did amplify the stress response in their body, resulting in increase in blood pressure and heart rate, as well as an increase in the production of stress hormones. So, it basically just changes how your body responds to stress,
Hmm.
uh, which makes sense. And caffeine directly affects not only the way a person's body responds to stress, but also like how your mind magnifies the stress. So, someone who suffers from underlying anxiety probably would have worse anxiety with a lot of caffeine. Yeah, so it magnifies kind of how you already deal with stress and how your mind thinks about stress. And
so we're already fucking up.
yeah, I can definitely, attest to that. If I have more caffeine than usual, like a caffeine pill and a cup of coffee, oh man, there's no like bringing me back.
Just, oh God.
I'm just like all day long.
I feel like that should be a GIF.
One more thing about caffeine is it actually is a natural pesticide and herbicide. So the caffeine found in plants will function as a natural pesticide to help ward off insects that may attack the plant. So it could be useful in pest control. At high doses, caffeine can be toxic to insects. Not surprising, it's toxic to humans too at high levels. So makes sense that it'd be toxic to insects too. So because it's a natural herbicide, it gets released into the soil so that actually other weeds can't grow close to the coffee or tea shrubs. And it has also been reported that on coffee farms, caffeine can build up so much in the soil that the coffee plants themselves actually become toxic and die. So just a helpful hint if you plan on growing your own. I actually bought a coffee plant and it died. I really wanted to grow my own coffee beans, and it
yikes. Just
probably because actually it probably died because I had it in like a pot, and this makes sense if it's a natural herbicide or pesticide because there was no other like movement of soil and stuff.
Let's hope that's the reason. Anyways, are you guys a coffee drinker or are you a tea drinker? Or do you just not drink anything at all? Do you just drink water and just wake up peppy? Because I know that's not me. I drink coffee.
I envy those people so much.
But we do want to say for our last segment, our social media shout out, it does go to at LatinaXRD, also known as by her other Instagram name, FADHY11A. So she is a registered dietitian from New York City. I think she recently became one, and she's also a lactation counselor. And she has really good food pictures, and she does a lot of really hilarious memes. So go ahead and check
a good meme.
So thank you so much for listening and just commenting and liking. We do really appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, definitely. And we are currently on YouTube, so we would appreciate YouTube subscribers on there. And there's also that bell icon on YouTube that you can just click on, and it will alert you in the same way that iTunes will alert you when our new episode is live. So yeah,
you can see more of these faces. Okay, that's enough.
And if you're listening just audio only, go watch the video so you can see that.
That was a little awkward on audio.
But yeah, that is all we have for you guys today. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys.
Catch you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for a brand new episode.
Also, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
We'd love to hear from you, so please leave us a review.
5 stars, no less.
On whatever platform you're listening to, or send us an email at keepingitjuicypodcast@gmail.com.
Or if you have any topics you'd like for us to touch upon, shoot us an email. Until next time, don't do anything that I wouldn't do.